Good evening and welcome. This is the meeting of the Board of Equalization at City Commission, April 7th, 2026. We are at the Ed Bosch Freilich Meeting Room. Mr. Neubauer, would you like to take roll call, please?
Certainly. Commissioners Rohr.
Here.
Schoberg.
Here.
Braun.
Yes.
Heinchan.
Here.
Mayor Freilich.
I am here. At this time, we will have City Assessor Kim Markley will present the 2026 annual report. Kimberly?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. If we could bring up the presentation, thank you. Tonight, we'll go through our 2026 annual report. This is a summary of the valuations, summary of the assessment department activities in 2025, and any changes in value at the local, county, or state board may affect our final value. So assessment procedures. So first of all, the Century Code dictates that the assessors must value property at the full and true value as of February 1st of 2026. The North Dakota Board of Equalization requires that overall our value must be within 90 to 100% of the full and true value. With the increases that we've made this year for 2026, our properties are right at around 93%, just slightly under that. So for assessments, we have guidance that's provided through Century Code, the North Dakota Tax Commissioner's Office, and we use the recognized standards of mass appraisal of real property. So when you're appraising real property, there's three approaches. The sales approach, which uses similar properties to determine value. The cost approach is the land value and the depreciated cost of improvements. Income approach estimates the present value of future benefits. The majority of our properties were using the sales approach. So in the city of Mandan, we have 9,507 parcels. As you can see, most of those are residential, just slightly over 7,000 are residential. A little bit over 1,100 are commercial. Then we have 1,300 vacant lots and a whole 13 ag parcels. So breaking down the appraised value by class, 62% of the value is residential, 26% is commercial and vacant lots, and 12% exempt, and then less than 1% is the ag value. This report that I'm showing here on this slide and the next one, this is called our sales ratio report. This is what the state uses to determine if we're in that 90 to 100% tolerance. And this is the formula and the report that they use. And they're assuring that the market values are adjusted without the exemptions in new construction. So on this section of the worksheet, it's accounting for the changes between 25 and 26. This section is showing you that before adjustments, our sales ratio was not within that 90 to 100% tolerance. As you can see at the top row, it's showing we're under that 90%. So after we adjusted values, then we're in tolerance, both, like I said, just right below 93%. So our total increase for 2026, our total valuation, is $3.2 billion. This is an increase of $210 million, or about a 6.9% increase from 2025. Of that increase, $36 million was new construction. On the residential side of it, there was 249 sales that took place in 2025, and those sales were used to determine the 2026 valuation. So overall, residential values increased $138 million, or about 6.5%. Of that, that's new construction, remodeling, exemptions expiring, our zone review, all those kinds of things. And the average market increase of that increase was 5%. In 2025, we reviewed the residential lot values, and the areas that we our normal rotation review, that's when we actually send out the letters and we physically go review properties. So we were working in zone 3 and 4, and then on our map you can see where that is located. On the commercial side of things, we had 32 sales that took place in 2025. And those values, or those sales, were used to determine the 2026 valuation. So overall, the commercial increased 72 million, or 8%. Again, new construction, remodeling, etc. The average market increase was 7.3. And then there were several areas that we reviewed physically this last year. And I've showed those areas here. So a big change that we had for 2026, during the 2025 legislative session, the Century Code was updated. So this year, it requires that we give written notice of the amount of the true and value of each parcel of taxable property. And that included the current and the previous year's values. So all those parcels received a notice. Previously, before this law change, we issued notices of increase. And that was, you were only sent a notice if your value increased $3,000 or more and 10% or more. So that's a huge change in what we've done for notices. So again, instead of a notice of increase, everybody that's taxable gets a notice of their value. So there are a lot of paper cuts involved. So with that change, in 2025, we sent out 743 notices of increase. Now this year, in 2026, with the notice of real estate assessments, we sent over almost 7,300 property owners received a notice. And there's more than one parcel on some of those, so if you had 20 parcels, then you would get more than one of them on a sheet. So in order to try to notify the public of this notice change, there was an article in the Mandan Messenger. I shared the announcement during one of the commission meetings. There was an announcement posted on the city website. There was a notice on Facebook, and also a bulk email was sent out to the people that subscribed to those emails. So when we talk about exemptions, there's a couple different types of exemptions. We have non-discretionary exemptions, which are exemptions that are required by law. So example, hospitals, cemeteries, public schools, city-owned property, nonprofit organizations, blind exemption, wheelchair exemptions, and churches are examples of those. And then the discretionary exemptions are ones that the local board, which would be the city commission, grants at their discretion. So in the city of Mandan, we have the residential new construction, we have Renaissance zone, commercial and residential remodeling exemptions, new and expanding business, and we have one payment in lieu of taxes. So there's a total of 35 of those exemptions. So breaking those down, the non-discretionary exemptions, the ones that are state law, they're about 3.5% of our total value. The non-discretionary ones are about 7.6% of the total value, and then the discretionary ones are less than 1%. Excuse me, I just need to get a drink. On the side of the reimbursement credits, those are property tax relief programs for people, and the state reimburses us for those. The first one is the homestead tax credit, and to be eligible for that, it's you need to be 65 years or older or permanently and totally disabled. Your income, less your out-of-pocket medical expenses, needs to be under $70,000. So in 2025, we had almost 700 applications for the homestead credit. As of last week, we have processed 518 of those. The disabled veterans credit is for veterans or surviving spouses with a disability of 50% or greater. And for 2025, we had 220 participants, and so far we have processed 178 applications. The primary residence credit, that's the one you're seeing a lot of advertising in the last few months on that. So to be eligible for that credit, you must own your home in North Dakota and reside in it as your primary residence. So for 2025, we had 4,887 properties that received the primary residence credit. So the total of that credit was $7.5 million, and those were the $1,600. The year before, there was $2.3 million, and that's when the credit was only $500. These credits will be paid, that amount of those credits will be paid to Morton County by May 31st. And then the county auditor apportions that to the different taxing districts, like the school, the city, water district. If you have any questions for me, I can entertain those at this time.
Kim, I'm really appreciative for all you and your team do here. I've got to admit that I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to this stuff. So the 3% property tax initiative passed by the 2025 legislative group does not weigh in on this at all.
The 3% does not apply to assessment values. That applies on the mill levy end. So the taxes that are collected by your different taxing entities, that's where that 3% cap is applied. So it's not the individual parcels, it's citywide, and it's applied when we're developing our levies.
Okay. And the timing of the letters, in my particular scenario, I just remember getting one, like in August to October or something.
Okay,
But the new letter came as somewhat of a surprise.
Yeah, so there's a couple different things that changed with that bill that was passed in 2025. The letter that you get in August used to be an estimated property tax, and it also gave you the information on the budget hearings. That has been changed to just a budget hearing notice. So you have that notice in August. You get your tax bill in December. And then in the spring, right before equalization, like in March, we send out your notice of real estate assessment. And that's telling you what your value is.
Okay.
And then we
Thanks.
start all over again.
Thank you.
Kim, what would happen if we turned in our assessment at 88%?
The sales ratio worksheet that I showed you will be calculated at the state level, and at the Board of Equalization in August, like you said, if we turned it in at 85%, they would order us to change our assessments, and then they would dictate if they wanted at 93 or 95. So we would be ordered at that August meeting to up our assessments.
So what I'm trying to get at here is that the wiggle room with Century Code is minimal.
Correct. And my goal as the city assessor is to try to keep the level of assessment really close between commercial and residential. And I'd like to have that between 93 and 95%. We don't want to lose ground as the years go on.
How long have you been doing this?
How long have I been an assessor?
Yes.
29 years. And I have been here for, I think it'll be 8 years.
Okay.
Can you
Any
see
other-
my gray hairs? Is that?
Any other questions for Kim? Okay. If not, commissioners? consider approval of the 2026 annual report.
Mayor, may I ask a question regarding these two?
You may.
So we're looking at two motions here. The first motion, the way I understand it, Kim, is it sets the stage, it sets the foundation for this year's assessments. Is that correct or incorrect?
Mayor and Commissioner Schoberg, the first motion is to approve the information I just gave you.
Okay.
With the exemptions, showing you that I'm in with tolerance level. And then after you approve that, then we'll listen to the public, and then we can make a motion on any changes that need to be made.
Okay. Thank you for the clarity.
You're welcome.
With that,
I'll move to approve the 2026 annual report as submitted by City Assessor Markley.
we have a motion by Commissioner Schoberg, a second by Commissioner Brown. Any further discussion? Commissioner Heinchan is still on the line, correct?
Yes.
Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Heinchan,
Yes.
Rohr,
Yes.
Schoberg,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes. We will move on to the open forum. The public is invited to express any question, comments, or concerns regarding the 2026 annual report and 2026 property valuations at this time. I will now open the public meeting. And please state your name. Are we having them sign in, Mr. Neubauer?
Mayor Freilich, yes, we are.
Okay.
I think we have a signing sheet ready to go.
Okay. Open for public comment.
Good evening. My name is Ben Capel, and first I'd like to start off by saying a quick thank you to the Commission for holding this meeting. I do have a packet I would like to hand out, if that's all right. Do you want a big one? Sure. I got the smaller versions here.
Thank you.
Everything highlighted, it's very easy to read and easy to go through. All right. Worst nightmare, a realtor is going to come up here and bring some data. I do want to touch about Mandan's numbers right away, right off the bat. In a couple of these packets, I brought in the market summary for Mandan, and we are looking at like a 1.38% increase year over year from the MLS. From December, December 24 to December 25, that's what our MLS pulled. 305 was 305,000 was the 2024 number, and then 2025 was 309,000. So I did not see the 5%. I did add that in a couple. I was running out of ink though, so some of you might not have that in your packet. In the front of your page, I am protesting the 1712 14th Avenue Southeast. I did reach out to John to get a secondary opinion that was denied, but I do thank him for offering the target price, what we're shooting for today, 92.8. That was mentioned earlier, which is fantastic. I'm great with that. So today I provided you with an updated market analysis on this property. So if you flip to this one, it looks like this. On the front of the page, this is just going to bring what the current market value of this property is. So there are different comps than what the city pulled. What I thought was more accurate comps is what I used. But it brought in at the market value of $472,000. So if we take that 92.8%, we're looking at $438 for the assessed value. I do want to touch on, because I had a conversation with John a little bit about why he chose some of this. So my job is to write property descriptions on places. I know this. He was going off of what was based in my property, which sold in 2024, late 2024. So in the public descriptions, it says, all these great things, updated kitchen. Well, that happened well over 10 years ago. I've already had to replace 2 appliances. So as a realtor, I can call that an updated kitchen for somebody that I'm listing their property, but is it updated comparatively to the neighbor property which just sold, no, it's well within reason. There was many other things in this. It had inaccurate square footage in the listing description. Like it says it has a wet bar. That actually drains into a bucket. It's kind of neat. But anyways, so my concern was that the city assessor was using MLS data for public descriptions to analyze property, which is a giant concern for me, and it brought up issues in the real estate industry where we're writing contracts and we might need to add in now in those contracts to delete this information so it's not being taken out of context when the city takes it in and starts evaluating these properties. But that's a side note. So the next page, front page, I did put in what they picked for their assessed values or their properties, what they were picking. I crossed quite a few of these out because they weren't quite comparable. Like I said, in my CMA that I printed out, I did print out what I thought was the most accurate comps for this property. So if you go on to page 2 of that, it does kind of list in more detail why or why not that should have been a comp. Like some of these one property was listed for almost 600 days. One had, a gorgeous view of a giant valley. So so I threw out quite a few of those. I didn't believe that those were comps for my property. Another thing, my property did sell in 2024. That's when I purchased it. That was prior to it being adjacent to commercial property. You've been to planning and zoning meetings, right? You know how much people love to live next to shop condos? Well, my property butts up next to shop condos now. So it devalues my property. And there's likely more to be built. Yes, Mayor Freilich. So, did you have something to add there?
Well, you acquired.
Yes, I acquired it not knowing that I acquired it being commercial back there.
Did you not acquire land to the east?
Yes, I did acquire some land to the east, to the east, yes. That was almost an 8-month process. That's right, I was in front of it for a while.
So your buffer zone is what, from your back door?
From my property line, now the buffer zone is 40 feet, but from my back door, add 100 feet to that, 120 feet. So the problem is if they do build more, those driveways will face right into my backyard. I will be back here asking for another $50,000 in deduction because that will drop our property value significantly if you have lights shining in your back windows 24 hours a day and truck traffic rolling in and out in your backyard. That will make a significant difference. So on my CMA, so my next door house actually just did sell. That's my closest comp because that is in the neighborhood and now was adjacent to those shop condos, which are just built. Those details are on page 4 of that packet with the pictures on the front. And again, John didn't want to use that because my kitchen is slightly newer. I think he was under the impression that my kitchen was brand new. Like I said, I had to do some digging from the neighborhood, and those updates that he's referring to were done back in 2015 is my best guess. So technically my kitchen is 15 years newer or 14 years newer than the neighboring house, but that does not mean that shouldn't be used as a comparable. And then my second way of coming out to the analysis is I took everybody's property values of their proposed assessed value on my block, since we are all very similar. I'm kind of being singled out as the one that's being assessed quite high from our neighborhood. So if you go, we have the CMA, which brought you to that price. I also took the square foot price compared to the TLA of all the properties down my street, which are going to be almost identical, right? So their average was $269 a square foot, where my property was $311. So if you just applied that $269, which is the average going all the way down my block of what everybody's paying, that would bring my assessed value to $445. So extremely similar to what my CMA pulled out as well for what the assessed value should be. Let's see here. I think, I have some details on those two closest comparable comps on one of the pages. I have some things highlighted. Like I said, one of them just sold for $437, and it's now being assessed for $65,000 above what it just sold for 2.5 months ago. So, and I'm not here to critique other properties. I'm just pointing out the flaw. If we're going off of market value, that property, 1801 4th, that property just sold. That is its market value. And now it's being assessed $65,000 above what that property is. So I wanted to bring up that concern. Always like to bring up the tax credits. I work for the North Dakota Association of Realtors too. We spend a lot of time on that tax credit. There's a lot of confusion with that 3% rule too across the board. No, it doesn't apply to raising the assessed values, but if you look, say in my instance, in 2 years, my tax credit will be gone. And that's what the legislature did not want to have. They didn't want to have that $1,600 be absorbed into budgets of the city and then it just disappears and then we're back to where we were, we're square one. I do know a lot of cities in North Dakota did put a cap, like Dickinson. Don't quote me, but I do believe they're at a 10% cap on what they can do an increase on assessed values year over year. The city commission voted on that. Sorry, I'm a Dickinson kid. I came over here a few years ago. But I did want to point that out as maybe possibly something that the city commission would look into in the future, setting a cap. So we do not lose these credits that come in and then all of a sudden they disappear for a property owner after 2 years and they're back to where back to where they were. So to quick summarize, I'll wrap this up so I can get everybody else up here. The CMA brought in the value of $438. The neighborhood average, when we go off a square foot to the TLA on their prices of what they're proposed, was $445. I would be happy with anything in that reason. Right now, I'm looking at an assessed value of $514, which is quite high. I couldn't get that today. So I want to make sure that I'm within that 92, even 93 to 95%. Anywhere in there is fine. But I wanted to bring some evidence of where I sit. I did bring the previous listing description, so you can read that. Again, it's embellished, which is what we do. So, any questions that I could go over?
No, would assessing like to address it?
Mayor,
No, excuse me, sorry.
His increase is 13% then. Mayor Kimberly, would his increase be, if you're looking at percentage increase, his would be 13% if I worked it right at my calculator. 13%.
Mayor and Commissioner Rohr, that is correct, but also remember that there was a big land adjustment in there too with the replat. So part of that is change, we had 10,000 square feet last year on that lot. Now we have 45,000 square feet because of the land that was added with the Evergreen Heights fifth plat. A couple of the sales in there, I haven't had a chance to look at this packet. The only thing I can say is a couple of sales that were brought up that were sold in 2026, that will be in our sales ratio study for next year. So we are using 2025 sales. Other than that, I can't speak to the packet information because I haven't had a chance to review that.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Okay,
Just quick touch on the land. So with the assessed value, it is separated. So land value, dwelling value, you have two different categories. So all of my neighborhood, it wasn't just me purchasing land. That has been changed in the land value. So I'm just talking about the dwelling value with my proposal. The land value did change accordingly. The neighbors that purchased a quarter behind them, basically, they all saw a $16,000 increase on their land value, while I had pretty close to double that since I bought the 2 quarters in the back there. So the land value is not what I'm focused on. We're talking about the dwelling value, and that's why I provided the comps there. So that should be addressed.
okay, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Kimberly?
Mayor, if I might, we have to do, when we're talking about this and what's on the sheets, we need to talk about total value, the house and the land together. So I don't want to get that confused, so I don't sure I understand what you're saying. So you think that the house value itself should be the 438, between the 438 and the 445, not including the land? Am I misunderstanding?
No, you're not. So it's not me who's assessing these separately. This is the city's process. They assess the land value and they assess the dwelling value. They put it together and they give you the full value. So that's it. If you want to use, my neighborhood assessment, all four of these would have that extra land on there, and that would still meet that requirement on that one of the two, the CMA. I get what you're saying. It's not me that's splitting it up, though. It's the city who splits up the land and the dwelling, so I'm just focused on the dwelling.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone else? Public forum?
Hi, my name is April Gorham. I don't have a packet. Most of my stuff should already be in a file for our home. I am here to appeal the assessed value of our property, which is 1812 12th Avenue Southeast. I attempted to find comparable sales in our immediate area, but was unable to find any homes that were comparable to our home. There was a house that had a significantly bigger yard that sold, but that had been remodeled multiple times, and it was an exhausting process. It took forever to sell, and it very much was remodeled. Our house, I understand that the values have increased in Mandan, but my concern is that our home has been assessed at a value that reflects updated houses. Our house has not been updated since we bought it. We had it appraised in 2019, and that appraisal was for $255,000. And last year, the city appraised us at $309,000, and now we have at $288,000 last year. Now it's assessed at $309,000, which is like a 38% increase in 6 years. And we've done nothing except we redid our driveway, and that doesn't really increase value in a home. Our house is dated. I have photos, but essentially our appraisal that we had, the photos are not much different. It's just the carpet is worse than the carpet, the linoleum, everything is very old, way older than 10 years. Our deck needs to be redone. I know that it sounds to me like how the assessor did the land was by looking at houses sold around the area, but most of the houses that sold were updated and ours is not. I really don't believe we could put it on the market for this amount and actually sell it at this. Realistically, it would not sell for that amount. So I'm just here to, I guess, appeal this increase. No, that's all I have to say, I guess.
Okay, thank you, April.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just have a quick question for the appellant. Have we looked at your property yet? Have we visited with you? Okay. We will make a point to visit with her before the county board meeting and see if we need to go and review the property.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Tori Meyer. I am a real estate agent. I've been doing real estate in the metro area for 11 years. I've also did real estate in Fargo, so this is my 16th year. I printed out a lot of information, and I'll just give it to you. Here's more additional information if you want. So I would like to point out I'm at 3103 Bayshore Bend Southeast, and I want to bring up that I feel like the tax values are not the same in our area. I know houses don't sell very often in that location. I do live on the water. There is a newer area of houses that are built on the water and that are obviously way higher. I live in an older development, which is like one of the first houses that were built. Obviously, they're older. There was a new house that was built in the location, but I feel that the tax values are substantially not equalized. And I want to show you the information that I came up with. The first pages I want to show you is pictures of all the houses in my neighborhood. And as you can see, I will point out which one is mine. It definitely isn't the nicest. And it definitely blends in with the neighborhood. There are a few houses in the neighborhood that are, I'm talking like neighborhood, I'm talking like on the water, like 2 doors down, right next door. They're properties that are directly like right next door. So I wanted to be as accurate as I possibly can. And if you look at all the pictures, it'll show you all the ones in our neighborhood. And I want to just talk to you about the values in the last 5 years on my property. In 2020, it was 469, 2021, 406, 2022, 528, 2023, 611, 24, 642, and in 2025, 643. So in the last 5 years, it increased 43%. So if we were to go over and say Borden Harbor, one of the nicest houses over there built by a premier builder, it's not that percentage. So I feel that houses on the water, the houses that are built cheaply and the houses that are high end, these ones are coming up a lot higher. And I have examples like a high end house that has, I have it on the list. I don't want to say the house number because people are watching on TV. And I am a real estate agent, but I do want you to look at all the comps that I put on here. I did price per square foot. So my price per square foot is $433 a square foot. Right next door, there is one that's $390. 2 doors down, $366. A few doors down, $404. Another one is $464, $369. $415, $303, and $391 a square foot. Vastly different. Why are my properties in value increasing price per square foot higher than anyone else in the neighborhood? And if you look at, I have even more because I got all the ones on my street. I took pictures. You have them in front of you. $465 a square foot. 369, 328, and 298. So twos, threes, and then obviously there is another one that's as high as mine, but they're not all equalized. They're not all coming up on the same value. So let's switch over to another end on Lakewood that's on the water. That is with a premier builder, $298 a square foot. And their property increased 193,000 in the last 5 years, and mine was way higher than that. So my concern is that if I buy a cheaper home or a high-end home, the prices are not increasing like they should. It's like they take it. It's. I know it's an automated system. And they haven't seen all the houses, but if you look at all the curb appeals, there's a lot of houses that are. There's one that was built in 2018, a lot newer, higher square footage, and the price per square foot is not much different than mine. So multi-levels in real estate in the last 11 years, you do know that anything that is a patio home, a ranch, sells higher per square foot than a multi-level and split entry. That is just how real estate is. It's based on percentage. So if you look at statistics in the last, a breakdown in the last 5 years, I mean, yeah, there's price increases. The highest year that we had was in 22 because the interest rate was 2.5. But if you look at the average, it's between 2 to 3, some years are 6, but if you go higher in price, it's a less percentage than the houses that are lower because there's more buyers wanting to buy in that neighborhood. My concern is I did get my house appraised in 2022 with a local Gate City Bank, and they will only base appraisal value on total living square footage above ground. That's how appraisers do it. That's how they come with their value. And at the time that I got appraised in 2022, it was pushing the fives. They wouldn't go any higher. If I was to get it appraised and sell it for today, it would not be selling for 671. So my concerns are that it's just not equalized in our neighborhood. It's not equalized on the high-end homes, and the values are, to me, it looks like if you look at all the statistics, everything increased 200,000 in the last 5 years, no matter what the price was when you started. And I did talk to the tax last year, and they had it as a ranch. I noticed this year it's a split entry, it's a multi-level. I don't know if they have that in their system. But if you look, if you want to know which one mine is the second page, the smallest picture. That will just kind of show you the curb appeal, that my house is definitely not the nicest. And my price per square foot that has increased is substantial. Do you have questions?
Thank you, Tori. Kim? No response? Okay.
Okay, my name is Marshall Phelan, and I have a house at 4504 Highland Road. I purchased that house for $165,000, and the specials and everything were paid. And now the 2025 assessment was $433,500. That's an increase of $298,500. And I guess I might have complained before because I had to get in fact, that lady right there, she inspected my house. But I know that it is just completely out of line. And so the increase of $298,000 is a lot. And now in 2026, $452,300. That's another increase of only $18,800. But anyway, the cost basis is $165,000. And now the difference, or the $297,000, so it's $130,000 more than the cost of the house. I guess that's a little bit ridiculous. I don't know.
Marshall?
Roof needs to be replaced. It needs some repairs. Whatever happened to depreciation? Houses don't get nicer. They get worse. I don't understand that. Anyway, I had Al Koenig, appraiser, appraise it, and he did appraise it at $285,000. So I think I should get a refund of $148,000 that I was overcharged for the 2024 or 2025 tax. Anyway, that's my complaint. I think they have kind of overcharged me. Then I have a house at 2203 14th Avenue, Southeast. I'm building it myself, and it'll cost me about $280,000 when I'm done. I had the appraiser, Al Koenig, appraise it, and he said he appraised it at $285,000. Now I've got an assessment in 2025 of $536,900, which is an overcharge of $251,900. Then they come with a 2026 assessment, $565,000, an increase of $28,400. And I think I should get a refund on the tax I paid on the overcharge of $251,900. I would request the assessed valuation for 2026 should be reduced to $285,000. That's it on that piece of property. Now I have my lumber yard, which is at 2329 Memorial Highway, and they have that assessed at $1,748,500 for the year 2026. It was $1,571,000, and that is an increase of $177,500. We have a road that's being built on Old Highway 10 there, and I have to pay $29,000 every year for 25 years. And my traffic has been reduced unbelievable. I just don't think they should do that to me. When it's 1,571,000, I think if they left it at that, I wouldn't complain. I just pay it. But now it's $1,748,500. That $177,500 is the increase. That's unfair. It's not right. And I think they should address that. I didn't make copies, I should have, but anyway, then I got some more property in Sylvester's addition. Lot 3, Block 2, was $167,000. Now it's $180,900 for 2026. That's an increase of $13,900. Then I have lots 2. See, that was lot 3. No, that's lot 2. Wait, lot 3, yeah. The other 3 lots, Lot 2 was $180,400, and now it's $195,500. That's an increase of $15,100 on that lot. Lot 2 in Block 2 was $167,000, and now they raised it to $180,900. That's $13,900 increase. Lot 4, it was valued at $178,100, and they increased it to $192,900. And that's $14,800 more increase. Well, I don't know. I've been able to pay the tax, but I think it's very unfair. My daughter did send in the credit on the house I'm living in. I didn't even get that $1,600 credit on the other house. It's not finished yet. I've been paying tax on that house ever since it got started about 20-some years ago. But I'm getting close. It's almost done. I have a plumber that's coming in to put the boiler in. I installed everything else myself. But anyway, I don't know. If I leave these papers with you, can I have them back?
Marshall?
Yeah. Oh, you can make copies? Yeah. Oh. We got that one. That one. That one. That one.
Mayor and
And
Commissioners,
here's the two houses.
Kim, has he come before you with these issues so that you could work through them with him? Is he on the list?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I haven't reviewed the information that he supplied. The only question I'd have for Mr. Phelan, do you know when those appraisals were done that you mentioned, that Al did for you? What year?
Well,
Do you remember?
tell you what, I got the invoice in here.
But no, we have not talked to Mr. Phelan yet this year, so
Okay, he charged me $700,
2024.
and here's a picture of the house.
You've answered my question, so.
No. There's the appraisal value, $285,000.
Yep, the question I asked Mr. Phelan was just what year this appraisal was completed, and it was in 2024.
Now, I had him do the other one. And he charged me the same price, $700 to get that job done. And this is the one at Southeast.
And that was done in 2017.
No, this was done for I'm 88 years old, so I'm going to give this stuff to my kids, and that's what that was about, to save some of this tax on the from the federal government. They get you big time on all these increases.
Okay, so he did the appraisal as of July 3rd, 2017.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
all right.
Marshall? Over here. Marshall?
Yes.
What year did you buy the home on Highland Acres?
What's that?
What year did you purchase the home in Highland Acres?
2013. I
Okay.
sold my house on Memorial Highway to, right now there's a gas station there. And I got a little over $1 million when I sold it. And, well, when you pay $1 million, you should pay tax on $1 million. But this thing is getting to be taxing people to death. Man, oh man, it's getting out of hand. I just don't understand what's happening in this world.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate it. Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome. Anyway, thanks for listening to me.
You're welcome.
I'm getting to be an old man. I haven't eaten supper yet, but I'm gonna be.
It's good to see you tonight. Anyone else with comments?
Good evening, my name is Mary Anderson, and we own a property up on Linda Drive, 1607 Linda Drive is the address. We bought it in August for $233,000, and now I have an assessed value of $253,300.
Ma'am, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Could you be a little more distinct?
I'll try. I get that a lot.
Go back to the address again.
1607 Linda Drive.
Okay, thank you.
We purchased it in last August for $233,000. The assessed value was $233,400, but we paid $233,000 for it. And now it says that the current assessed value is $253,300. That would be great. I'd be tickled if we could get that for it today, but I'm certain that that's just not in the cards for us. When we bought the house, there was no ceiling in the basement for, I guess, 3/4 of the basement. And there's other conditions in the house that we just thought, well, we can just put our sweat into it and increase value that way. None of those things have happened. That's not true. We put new windows in, and we refinished the floors upstairs. But the kitchen is as is. We're working on the bathroom. It's not even a 1 3/4 bath as it stands today. It will be when we're done, but today definitely not. And at the pace that things are going, I couldn't say that it's going to happen in a year that those things will be finished. We are in the neighborhood that had the sewer line and water lines replaced. So we, on top of this, have a $10,000 special assessment on the value of our home. Sorry, dry mouth. And I just think that if you look at a home, if we were to sell it today, we'd be looking at selling it for $233,000 plus the $10,000. You know, I mean, I'm nearly certain that there's no way that we would be able to get $253,000 for this house. It's an increase of like 9%, I believe. And I guess my question was, the increase in the value, is that based on a square foot value for the neighborhood, or is it?
Mayor and Commissioners, that's part of it. There's so many different things that are considered, you know, the quality when it's built, the size, the finish, you know, is the basement finished, how many bathrooms, there's a lot of different things, but I can visit with you after the meeting too and give you some more information, and if we need to schedule a review.
Okay, that'd be
That
great.
would be my best. That would be my goal for tonight, to just get a visit about it anyway.
Okay.
My questions are answered.
Okay. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
And I live in the neighborhood, so. Anyone else?
Good evening, Patrick Keller, 3320 Bayshore Bend. I have some specific information and maybe some generic information. I don't have handouts, but I can leave everything here after I present. My home saw an increase of $22,000 from 2023 to 24, and then it saw a $7,000 increase from 24 to 25, and then an $18,000 increase from 25 to 26 for a $47,000 increase, which would be 10% of the value excuse me, of the property. I don't know if that 92.8% is the cap at what it should be, but based on that, my valuation of $47,800 for 2026 would mean that home would be valued at $504,000. And looking at some comps from 2025, in the 3700 block of Bayshore Bend, there was a home that sold for $484,900, and another one in the 3200 block that sold for $459,100. So again, that if that 92.8% is applied across the board, that would mean my home is valued at $508,400, which would seem to be excessive. I did do a little bit of research and look at overall valuations in Mandan. There's a website called Neighborhood Scout, and they're purported to be 97 to 98% accurate in the real estate and other data that they provide. And they show that over a 5-year period that Mandan property values have increased an average of 2.5% per annum up until this most recent quarter. In the most recent quarter of 2026, there's actually showing a negative trend of negative 1.49% for property values. And some of the realtors you can find, they've been interviewed on TV and whatnot, they tend to support that right now there's a surplus of homes than there are buyers, and so the market is softening. But if you annualize that out at negative 1.49 for a quarter, that's a negative growth of negative 5.84% in property valuations over the 2026 year, assuming that property values, properties continue to be soft and homes continue to be soft. And we know the economy is soft right now with all of the extra spending and inflation and gas prices and other things that are occurring right now. So that is what I have. I can leave this all here if there are any questions. You can make copies.
I guess I was asking Tori, the pictures you provided? Yes. Is Patrick's information kind of embedded in here somehow?
No, I don't.
Because you're both on Bayshore, right?
Yeah, we are.
She's on the water and I'm not.
So, like,
Yeah.
when I gave you the comps, they were just strictly on the water.
Okay.
Because if I was using it across the street as a real estate agent, that's not realistic. You have to use similar properties that are on the water.
Okay.
And that's why I gave you prices per square foot of all the ones right in a row and how mine is so much higher price per square foot than the comparison.
But you're just on the water, and Patrick, you're...
I can see the water, but I can't access it.
Okay.
I would never put his in there.
Okay. That was my question. Thank you. And you're going to provide that information
Yeah,
to...
I think the gentleman was making copies, so
Okay.
shall I wait here? Or?
You can sit down,
Okay,
Patrick.
thanks.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else that wanted to?
Sorry. Not doing my job.
Good evening. My name is Bernice Thomas, and we have lived in our house since we built it in 1978. And in looking back, and then of course my husband had a severe stroke in 2015, which took him out of the workforce, as well as myself, to take care of him. And we've lived in the same house, like I said, almost 50 years. And the way it has been going up, same in between 2021 and 2022, it went up 21,000 as a value. Then the next year it went up in 1,300, 100. The next year it went up $62,700. Last year it went up $9,200. Now, I do not understand how the value can increase and our whole goal is to be able to stay in our house. And like I said, neither one of us, because I have to be home with him. So basically, we've got retirement. From when he worked, I had been a stay-at-home mom for 7 kids. That was 20 years worth. And this thing about, people selling their houses, and then all of a sudden, the rest of us, our value goes up. But we don't have the resources to keep on with these valuations, especially when you're planning that this is your home. And until, you die or incapacitated. And just because, neighbors have sold their houses, and we don't live in a neighborhood, I'm sorry, I didn't give my address, 1006 3rd Street Northeast. And the value, it just is not fair if other people around the neighborhood sell their house, and then those of us that are just trying to stay in our home, that it goes up and up and up. And yes, we do use the homestead tax credit, but last year, like I said, the scale at which it's going up, and we finally tore out some carpet that had been in almost 50 years. In fact, my bedroom still has carpet from 1978. And, we're trying to keep it, looking decent from the outside, and I'm trying to keep, it looking nice in the yard and stuff. But it's like when you have to make improvements, because we just had to tear out that almost 50-year-old carpet last year. And so I don't understand why there can't be, other than this, the tax credit. And even with the tax credit plus the $1,600 that the state is giving us supposedly, last year we still paid $1,500 in taxes. And it's hard to keep up your house, and then when this increase every year. There should be a time when you finally own your house, when you should be done with taxes. That's my bottom premise, is when is enough enough? We're just trying, we're not planning have nothing to, be going into a nursing home or anything like that. And I'm just wondering, when is enough enough? I thought the whole thing with the $1,600 was supposed to eliminate your taxes, but it's not. So I don't know how elderly people that can't be working outside their home anymore, I have enough just trying to keep up there. And so
Okay.
that's about what I have to say. I mean, it's not like, yippee, our house is worth, then it's going up after last year. Like I said, in 2024, it went up 62,000, the valuation, 700. And now it's going to be going up another between, what the current assessment from 276,100 to 292,100. But there's got to be a point at which we've paid enough. We've gone through 3 different times of all the street, because when we moved there, the end of the block was where it was gravel road. And then, so when that got paved, there was that specials and 2 other. The last special was $10,000. And between the specials, and hopefully there's no more of those, but then the value of the house goes up. And our lot is 50 by about 150. So it's broke down to 2 lots, lot 11 and 12. So I would just like some kind of relief for those of us that have paid enough.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you to everyone who spoke tonight. Appreciate it. Kim?
Mayor and Commissioners, at this time is when we would give you my recommendations for changes. Looking at the Excel spreadsheet that I gave everybody, since this was posted to, the agenda was posted last Thursday, we have reviewed appeal number 22 and updated that recommendation for a change. Appeals 120 through 128 were added since last Thursday. We have several appointments scheduled before the county BOE, and you'll see that in the recommendations and the notes on those that we'll need to review before county boards. The people that presented tonight need to be added to our appeal list. April Gorham, thank you. And the properties for Marshall Phelan, the 2 houses, the lumberyard, and the 2 lots. Mary Anderson, Patrick Keller, and Bernice Thomas. My recommendation is not to make a change tonight and to review those before county board. We will reach out to those people that presented tonight and we'll review the information that they gave us. So you have my recommendations on that spreadsheet and my comments from what was presented tonight.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions on
Commissioners,
anything.
any questions? If none, I would entertain a motion. After. If we get a motion.
Sean needs to step up, huh?
Mayor and commissioners, I guess I got a question on timelines of, this seems to be the normal process of the people that have spoken tonight. Now, we follow up, but we are approving the rest of the sheet, except for the people that have spoke tonight and the other ones that were added. I guess, is this a timeline of, this is how it always goes, I guess, to approve the rest? I guess that's my question.
Mayor and Commissioner Heinchan, normally we make a motion to approve the list that I've given you with my recommendations, and then we will follow up with any of the information that was given to us tonight. And there's also some on your list that we've indicated we will be following up and physically doing reviews before the county board.
Okay, and if they miss the date,
Okay, if they missed the appeal date tonight, they can still appeal to the county board. They would not be able to appeal to the state board, but they could still appeal to county, which is June 4th at 6:30. 6 o'clock. June 4th at 6 o'clock is the county board.
okay. Commissioner Heinchan, were your questions answered?
Yes.
Commissioner Schoberg?
Yeah, I guess just to clarify in my own mind, so the folks that took the time to come here tonight, you'll be speaking with them.
Correct. They signed in on the sign-in sheet with their phone numbers and addresses, so we'll be able to follow up, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
I'll move to approve the recommendations for the appeals as submitted by City Assessor Markley.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Schoberg, a second by Commissioner Brown. Any further discussion?
Just a couple of comments. I've heard some, different arguments tonight, and I find that there's definitely validity to some of these arguments. The factor that we are kind of bound by this procedure that we have to follow, and we have to ask ourselves whether or not the city followed this procedure, in the legal foundation that the assessor followed the North Dakota requirements, and the evaluation reasonably reflects typical buyer, what they pay for our property, and then we're obligated to maintain, equity across all properties. In view of this, it's not a solid issue. There's some subjectivity here. There is. The subjectivity is there's going to be judgments involved in this. We rely upon our assessor. I think does a great job, and then you have the people who look at the issues and they bring forth other things. And in reality, the value of your property is a paper value. Until you sell it, it's a paper value. But that's the reality of this whole procedure here, and we have to do that. Now I fully understand, the points of argument made here and the concern and the increase as we move along here. The city, when you start whether you increase mills or whether you increase property values, the property owner still pays X number of dollars. It all fits into the same formula. And we see an increase in a lot of things. There's an inflationary movement in many areas, not to mention real estate and property taxes, sales taxes, all these things, and it's become a certain respect, a certain part of life that's difficult to negotiate and difficult for many of us to live by. But we, as commissioner too, we have to look at what Kimberly has done here in terms of the legal foundations that she based upon her things for, and so that's basically where I come from in understanding what's being presented to us, whether or not Kimberly has provided all the structure and formulas to give us where we're supposed to be. And I'm not wouldn't want to even be in a position to have to come out and say, okay, your property's worth this or this or not. That'd be a tough job for me, even to negotiate, and I wouldn't want to do that. But I do appreciate the people coming forward, and I also appreciate the work that the assessment department does to try to make this thing as amenable as possible.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the most difficult meeting of the year, by far. Okay, with that, any other comments? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioners Braun,
Yes.
Schoberg,
Yes.
Rohr,
Yes.
Heinchan,
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes. There is no other business before this board, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you again for coming. Appreciate it.